Okay, let's begin. Om Jnana-timirandasya Kananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmalatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sarah, would you like to read the English?
I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful advances unto him.
Thank you. Okay, so let's continue where we left off last week. So last week we read from the 4th chapter, which is called Transcendental Knowledge, text number 27. So we'll look at 28 today, but we'll just recap on 27 before we start 28. So 4th chapter, so look for the 4th chapter, text 28.
Page 214 in the hardcover.
No, 226.
226?
Well, you got, yeah, it depends on what style of book you've got, what edition and everything, so it might be different pages. But the verse starts with the word dravya. So if you see the word dravya, looking in the right place. 4th chapter, text 28, starts with dravya. D-R-A-V-Y-A. If you can see that in front of you, you're on the right place.
Narendra, are you getting that?
228, 428, sorry.
4.
And
Four,
text 28.
okay, yep.
28. Okay, good. So we'll just recap on last week's verse 27. So this section of the Bhagavad Gita, we're looking at different kinds of sacrifices. What sacrifice? If someone asks you, what does it mean? What does it mean in different kinds of sacrifice? What's that all about?
Sacrifice means that you could potentially be doing something, but you're choosing not to.
Yeah, so you're doing one thing means you have to give up something else, right? You can't do two things at the same time. You can't be in Sydney and in Newcastle at the same time. You can't be at home having a snooze and be working at the same time. You know, you have to give up your sleep to go to work. You have to give up your nice, comfortable home life to be working. You know, one activity, you have to give up something else. But that's the principle of sacrifice. But particularly here, sacrifice means you're doing an activity to please who?
Krishna.
To please Krishna, to please God, Bhagavan. That's the ultimate sacrifice. The ultimate, we want to give up what? What are we trying to give up in order to please God, Krishna? What do you have to do? What do you have to give up? What are we normally doing in the material world? In the material, what are we normally doing? We're doing our activities to please ourselves, our senses. The body is made up of senses. So generally in the material world, when we're under the influence of Maya illusion and we misidentify ourselves as the body, actually we're all an eternal soul. But due to misidentification and ignorance, we falsely identify ourselves with the body, which is made up of senses. So instead of our goal being that I'm a soul and I'm a servant of the Supreme Soul God, we're thinking I'm the body and I'm basically these senses, this tongue and this ears and nose and genitals and so forth. So my goal is to please these senses. So if you want to please your senses, you have to sacrifice serving God. And if you want to serve God's senses, you have to sacrifice serving your own senses. Can't do both. But what the wonderful thing we find out is when you serve God's senses, what happens to your senses? Do you miss
Sorry.
out? Materially, we calculate that, right? If I'm doing this activity, then I miss out on something else, I lose, right? If I give a donation over there, then I've got less money, right? Or if I give this food to someone, then that's food I don't have. Materially, we calculate that, right? But is that what happens in spiritual life? If we give something to Krishna, do we lose?
No.
No.
If the Vedic philosophy is, if you please God's senses, automatically your own senses become satisfied. That's a very important point of Vedic philosophy. If you can please God's senses, which is what sacrifice is, to please God, if God actually becomes pleased, then automatically we become satisfied. Automatically our own senses. There's many examples of that in Vedic culture. I'll just quickly tell one story from Krishna's pastimes. That when, some of you have heard this before, when Krishna was very young in terms of his pastimes, of course Krishna's eternal, but early on in Krishna's pastimes 5,000 years ago, he had seen his mother and dad barter different items to get what they wanted. So he took some grains out of the house and he carried them in his little baby hands to a fruit seller. He wanted to get some fruits. And as what normally happens when kids try to carry something, they drop a lot of stuff. So he dropped by the time he got to the fruit seller, all the grains had fallen out of his hands and he had empty hands. And he was disappointed. But the fruit seller was so enamored by Krishna. It was so beautiful, so charming, so effulgent. But that's what Krishna means, right? Krishna means all attractive. So Krishna's very attractive. So this lady fruit seller, she was so attracted by Krishna that she filled up his little palms with fruits, even though he had no grains to barter. She was just so happy just to give something to Krishna. And that's sacrifice, doing something to please Krishna. She wasn't thinking about herself. She was thinking about Krishna. I just want to make Krishna happy. So Krishna walked away very happy with his hands full of fruits back to his mum and dad. And materially at this point we would think, well, that was a bit of a loss for the fruit seller. But was it a loss?
No.
No.
Why wasn't it a loss? Well, one reason it wasn't a loss because she was happy, and that's perfection, right? She was happy, but apart from that, materially was she at a loss? She had less fruits than before?
No.
Why not? Why materially? She looked at her basket. You know what she saw in her basket? Before there was some fruits. After giving the fruits all to Krishna, she looked at her basket. You know what was in her basket?
Basket was still full.
Was it gold?
Unlimited
Basket was still full.
value of jewels of all different descriptions that we don't even know about these days. In her basket was so many priceless jewels, unlimitedly more valuable than a few fruits that are easily available. And Krishna was happy. And when Krishna's happy, automatically we'll become happy. If we're not happy, it's because we're focusing too much on ourselves. And, you know, like in today's environment with this virus thing, there's a lot of people are focusing too much on themselves. And that'll just make them more unhappy. The thing is, when we try to satisfy our own senses, we become more and more unhappy. But if we just sacrifice that and try to please Krishna's senses, often what we find is that we'll become happy automatically. Without even thinking about our own happiness, we'll automatically become happy. Like today, we had some friends come over here, two friends. It was our first day of freedom after being locked up for so long. So two friends.
Abhay, you frozen.
His prasadam to be distributed to other souls. And that's a very wonderful way to
For
awaken.
about 30 seconds, Prabhu. We didn't hear anything.
What happened? 30 seconds.
You froze for about 30 seconds and we didn't hear anything about that story.
We
I
must
didn't
have been
hear
in time. You were in spiritual time. We were in very much time.
Okay. Well, what
All
was
we
the
heard
last
was
thing you heard?
came over.
What was that you came over?
All we heard was that your friends came over. That's all we heard.
Oh, the friends came over. Okay. So this is the first day that the lockdown is reduced to the point that we can go and visit other people. So some friends came to visit us, and we took advantage of that Krishna really likes when his prasadam is being distributed to people. So we made some nice offering to Krishna, and we were just thinking about doing that, making something nice. We weren't thinking about ourselves, and we were thinking about distributing. They were so happy; they enjoyed it very much. And after they had prasadam, then we had prasadam, and we enjoyed it very much. So we automatically became satisfied. So just by focusing on pleasing Krishna, you don't become a loser. You gain much, much more. Even food that before it's offered to Krishna and the food after it's offered to Krishna, materially it looks like the same, but there's a vast difference in the taste of it, the benefit of it on all levels. It's so much better. So this process of sacrifice is what's being recommended here in the Bhagavad Gita. And what we're learning here, there's different kinds of sacrifice, but don't forget the principle. The principle is it's an activity that we're doing not to please ourselves, but to please the Supreme. Now, people have different realizations about who is the Supreme, so that's why there's different kinds of sacrifice. Some people's understanding of the Supreme is just light. Some people's understanding of the Supreme is in the heart of all creatures. Some people's understanding of the Supreme is Krishna, or some people might understand him by a different name like Jehovah, Allah. So there's different realizations there. And people at different stages of life. Someone's a student, so they might have some particular facility they can offer to God, like we were hearing about that previously. Generally, the students, what they have a lot of advantage in is they've got a lot of time to hear. So they're hearing from the Guru, hearing from a spiritual master. Whereas in a different phase of life, if you're married and have a family, you don't have a lot of opportunity to hear from a Guru. You're not living with the Guru, you're living with your wife. So their sacrifice is different. They try to control their desires. They have a lot of facility in terms of money and women, so they try to regulate that. And that's a kind of sacrifice. You're giving up that opportunity to just have, a big amount of sense enjoyment. So you voluntarily restricted that sense enjoyment as a offering to God. So now, last week's verse, we heard about the yogis and how the yogis make their sacrifice. So it's mentioned there that. Are you hearing? Are you able to hear?
Yes.
Yep,
Yes,
all
we
good.
can. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains you can divide the soul into two different categories. Anyone that was there last week, remember? Two different categories of souls.
It's Pratyag Atma and Paragatma.
Yeah, so basically what that means is the soul that's attached to sense enjoyment and the soul that's detached from sense enjoyment. Now, generally, every soul in the material is going to be in the first category. We're all attached, isn't it? We're all materially attached to this body, attached to trying to satisfy the body, make the body happy. But in this yoga system that we're hearing about in these couple of verses, what we're hearing about is trying to bring the soul from sense enjoyment, being attached to sense enjoyment, to detaching ourselves from it, to letting go from it. So this yoga system is meant for that purpose, to bring us from being attached to detached. Whatever kind of transcendentalist or yogi, that's the underlying principle. Now, how you're bringing the soul from being attached to detached is a little bit different in the process, but that's the principle. Because as long as we're attached to the material world, attached to trying to enjoy this body, we're never going to get out of it. We're going to die, and then we're going to take birth again. And we're going to die, and we're going to take birth again. So to break that cycle, the only way to break the cycle is we have to become detached from this body. Now, the only thing where the differences are is how you're going to do that. How do we do that in Bhakti Yoga? Let's put aside these Astanga yogis for a second. We're talking about the Astanga yoga system here. But for a Bhakti yogi, how do we do that? What's our process of going from being attached to detached?
Doing service for Krishna.
Doing service for Krishna. And what's some examples of that?
So you could be serving prasadam.
You couldn't be serving prasadam, yeah.
Just cleaning the temple.
Cleaning the temple for Krishna. Could be chanting Krishna's names. Could be like what we're doing now, hearing about Krishna, that's also service. Hearing Bhagavad Gita, talking about Bhagavad Gita. So
there's 9 main ways of savor, isn't there?
Yeah, so there's 9 divisions or 9 processes of devotional service. Very good, very good. 9 processes.
One is the hearing, the chanting.
Yeah, so that's bringing us from being attached to detached. Now, these yogis here, how are they becoming attached? What are they doing? They're not necessarily chanting Hare Krishna or listening to Bhagavad Gita or cleaning the temple, but what are they doing to become detached?
To control the senses, or?
Yeah, I mean, to become detached means you have to control the senses. Now, we're controlling our senses by chanting and hearing Bhagavad Gita and eating prasadam. You know, like your tongue automatically becomes controlled when you eat prasadam, because that means you're not eating what? You're not eating anything else, like McDonald's, KFC, Burger King. You know, like it's a sacrifice, right? So if you're eating prasadam, food offered to Krishna, that means you've sacrificed eating food that's not offered to Krishna. So you can't be eating 2 things at the same time. Prabhupada's principle, do you know what Prabhupada's principle with prasadam was?
Yeah.
Eat as much as you possibly can, and then you won't have to eat anything else.
Yeah, fill up the person as much as you possibly could. It's called Kanti Bhojan. It means fill them up to the neck with food. So there's no space for any nonsense. No space for anything else. When they first comes to the temple, the devotee's policy is to feed them so much you fill them up to the neck. But there's no space for any nonsense stuff. So that way, you know, we become detached. I remember when I first started eating Hare Krishna food, that day I started eating Hare Krishna food was the last day I was eating food that wasn't offered. Last day, that was my last McDonald's, my last KFC. You know, my last meet was the day I started eating Krishna food. And when I became filled up with Krishna food, then I didn't have any interest to eat anything else anymore. So we have a process of becoming detached. But what's the Ashtanga yogis process? How do they go from being attached to detached? What are they doing?
Well, isn't it severe austerities where they have to like a lot of breath work and
Yeah.
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 Posturing and with
Yes,
the
yes.
asanas and everything.
Yes. So that was the verse we read last week, was about the prana, that about the 10 life years. Like, how about all of us now take a good breath in? Take a good breath in and hold it for a second and then let it out. So this is the process that we started last week talking about, these Ashtanga yogis. They're through the breathing, and they are controlling the senses through the breathing.
They can hold the breath for a long time and pranayama and
Amen.
The whole idea, what was mentioned in the verse last week, was the purpose of manipulating the breathing was to create this situation of becoming detached. So at the moment, all the senses are going outwards, right? The eyes are seeing some form, some beautiful or whatever. The ears are hearing some nice music. The tongue is tasting the McDonald's or whatever. So the yogi, through the breathing, they control their mind. They controlling the mind, because actually the mind is in the heart, and it's surrounded by these different ears. And in the last week's verse, it mentioned 10 different ears, 10 different kinds of prana or air. And actually the heart, with the mind and the heart, is under the control of these different pranas, these different ears. So if you can control the air, you can control the mind. And if you control the mind, then what do they do when they control the mind? They bring the senses from looking external to internal. From external to internal, they turn it inwardly. So that's a whole process. There's 8 parts to their process. We have 9 processes. They have 8 processes. That's Ashtanga. Asta means 8. Anga means limbs. Their yoga process, Ashtanga yoga, their yoga process has 8 limbs or 8 divisions. So, but their purpose is the same as ours, to bring the soul from being attached to sense enjoyment to being detached from sense enjoyment. But their main way they're doing it is through manipulating these different ears in the body and withdrawing the senses from the external and turning them more inwardly. Their ultimate goal of realization in the original Ashtanga yoga process was to realize the Paramatma picture of God, means the super soul in the heart. Whereas our ultimate goal of realization is the Bhagavan picture. But they're just different pictures of the same God. This is a different feature. The Supreme Personality of God, Bhagavan Krishna, or the super soul in the heart of all living entities, which is another different aspect of Krishna. Like that. But that's the ultimate goal. And that is the final part of their process called samadhi, where they're completely absorbed, where their mind is completely absorbed in the beautiful form of the Paramatma in the heart. And that form has 4 arms. That form has 4 arms, is blue like Krishna, is in the heart, is present in the heart, eternally residing alongside the soul. Means now the Paramatma is with you in the heart, and if you're in the body of a dog or a pig or a worm or a cockroach or whatever, Paramatma goes with you. So he's our real friend. You know, do you have anyone that sticks with you your whole life through thick and thin? Maybe 1 or 2 if we're lucky. But ultimately everyone drops away at the time of death, right? Will they come with us in the next life if they had the choice? They don't have the choice, but even if they did, they probably wouldn't. Would anyone want to come with us? Hi, my beloved wife, my beloved friend, would you come with me when I go in the body of a cockroach in my next life? Forget it, I'm not coming to hang out with you as a cockroach or a rat or something like that. But Krishna is such a loving friend that he comes with us even when we go to some abominable situation. And that doesn't mean that Krishna becomes a cockroach or whatever, but he remains transcendental within that body. Whereas we are in Maya, thinking we're whatever body is like that. So this is their ultimate goal of realization. Of course, in modern day yoga, do you think many of them realize that's the goal of the yoga process?
No. That's a definite no.
Definite no, yeah. So Bob knows he's mixed with the yogi circles, and they're probably not talking much about seeing the forearm form of the Lord in the heart. But what are they mainly talking about? What do you think their interests are in doing this mechanical yoga process of asanas, exercises in front of the arm, the breathing, and all
I'm
these?
pretty sure of that. I mean, once they leave the mat, all the yoga principles go with them, I think, on average.
Yeah, go for a drink with the friends, go out and eat at some restaurant, eat some meat and different things like that, have some sex and so many things like that. But mainly they're wanting to keep the body healthy, right, and make it look good. But what's the foundational principle here that we're learning in Bhagavad Gita? If your goal is to make the body healthy and look good, well, what's the main principle we're learning in the Bhagavad Gita?
It's to stay well. Put all
To
effort.
stay healthy, but that's not our goal. I mean, that's helping us to achieve our purpose. That's helping us to achieve our purpose. So it is very important to stay healthy.
Yes, the healthier you are, the more you can do for Krishna.
Yeah.
Well, to realize that we're not this physical body, that
Yeah.
that we're a spirit soul, and that we belong and we come from Krishna. So yeah, that's
We're a
it.
spirit soul that's come from Krishna. We want to go back to Krishna. It's not our goal just to stay in the material world in a healthy body for as long as possible. And even if you do make it healthy through whatever purpose, it's going to die anyway, sooner or later. But that's not our real purpose. So somewhere along the lines, the modern day yogis have deviated from the original purpose to realize the Paramatma and then get liberated from there, to get liberated from the material, free from the material world. Now, somehow or other, over the period of time, it's deteriorated to the point where it's all about the body. It's all about the body. Whereas here, you see, in the last week's purport, the purpose of the yoga system was to become detached from sense enjoyment. That means to become detached from the body. Because what are sense enjoyments? The senses of what? The senses of what? That means the body senses. Detached from sense enjoyment means to become detached from the body. The purpose of yoga is to become detached from the body. Sense enjoyment means the enjoyment of the body. So we want to become detached from that. But now modern day yogis, they're doing yoga so they can enjoy the body more. They can have a better body for enjoyment. They can have better sex life and temporary relationships and attract the opposite sex, and they can have a better digestion and eat better and so many things like that. Of course, we also want to have a healthy body, but we want to have a healthy body so we can do more service for Krishna. So in the yoga system, that the yogi, the real yogi, he engages all these different pranas or life years for the purpose of self-realization, to become detached from sense enjoyment and to advance spiritual consciousness. So that's the real yoga system. So let's go on to this verse for today, 28, so we can recite the Sanskrit together. So 428, starting with the Dravya.
Yeah.
Dravya yagna stapo yagna yoga yagna statapare svadhyaya jnana yagnascha yachaya samsika vrataha. Let's do it once more. Dravya yagna stapo yagna yoga yagna statapare svadhyaya jnana yagnascha yachaya samsika vrataha. Okay. Mahendra, would you like to read the English? Would you like to read underneath the translation? Mahendra.
Narendra,
Oh, Narendra, okay.
Narendra.
Yeah.
can you read in
English
English?
translation. Would you like to read that one?
Oh, okay. Having accepted strict vows, some becomes enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge.
Okay. Thank you, Narendra. So last week was mainly talking about the Ashtanga yoga system. They were just focusing on one sacrifice. Here we're looking at a few different ones. So what kind of sacrifices are mentioned in this verse?
8.
Different kinds of sacrifices.
I think there's sacrifices of your material possessions.
Yeah, so that's one. Just take that separately, separate that from everything else. That's one kind of sacrifice. You can sacrifice your position. Have you ever done that, or have you know anyone that's done that? Anyone that gives away their positions?
You.
No, I did it when I was in Hare Krishna, yeah.
No, I know one of my friend. He was actually the general manager in Lufthansa Airlines in Germany Airlines Lufthansa in India. That the way he just coming to the Krishna consciousness, and they just give up and everything and just helping the temple, and everybody just thinks they're crazy, but nobody knows why did he do that. And he was in a quite high position. I don't know why did he do it.
Yeah. So why would someone do that? And we'll relate it back to what I said. What's the purpose?
To serve Krishna.
Yeah, to serve Krishna. And what we're learning here, to become detached from the body. And along with the body, what is it? Just the body? There's a lot that comes with the body too, right? We have my car, my house, my money, my clothes, my family. There's a lot of things that go with it, right? It's called aham mamati in Sanskrit. Aham. Aham means I. And mamati, mama, means mine. This is material consciousness. Aham mamati. I am this body. And everything related to this body is mine. Everything related to the body is mine. So in spiritual life, what do you want to do? You want to break that down. What's one way you can break that down? Is break down the mind. It's not my car. It's not my money. It's not my house. It's not my possessions. Just detach from it. Let it go. Now, of course, there's different different destinations, I don't know the better word for that, then where you can let it go to. I mean, some people just do some material welfare, right? Give it to the Cancer Society, the Blind Foundation, Save the Whales or whatever like that, and give it away to them. But higher kind of giving away the possessions is to give it to God. That's the ultimate, to sacrifice. Remember, sacrifice ultimately means to sacrifice for God. Of course, some people are not ready to sacrifice for God, but that's okay, and that's expected in the material world. We're sort of gone very far away from God, and we're trying to become God ourselves. So you can't expect everyone's going to straight away give to God, but that's the ultimate object, of course. But some people, they might just sacrifice to some other good cause, like that material cause. But still, that may be helping them to become detached a little from this bodily consciousness. So that's one kind of sacrifice. So you sacrifice their possessions, and you don't have to have a massively deep realization in everything just to give away some of your possessions. You don't have to know a lot of scriptures or anything like that. But obviously there must be some kind of realization here. Otherwise you wouldn't give away the things that you're attached to, right? Because generally we get attached to our material possessions, isn't it? So there must be some kind of realization in order for someone to sacrifice their material possessions. A really hard one for many people is to give away. What do you think? I mean, I suppose it's different, right? We're all attached to different things, more or less. Some people are very attached to money, but not to other things. Some people are not very attached to money, but more attached to other things. So, case by case. But that's very purifying. When we give away something we're very attached to. That's very purifying. Something you really like a lot. If you give up something you don't really like that's what most people do in modern day charities, isn't it? The thing you want to just throw away and it's just completely rotten or broken or falling apart, you give in charity that thing. But that's not real charity.
That's why the people bring the broken furniture to Bhakti tree.
Yeah, bring their broken furniture like that. But that's not a proper sacrifice. You should sacrifice something that you really like, that you're really attached to.
Yeah, I did one sacrifice. That's
Okay.
I drink a tea for the last 50 years at 3 o'clock, no matter what. Brett is the witness for that. And it's been 4 months, I don't drink anymore.
Oh, Brett, give him a pat on the back.
He's a witness.
What's that? Give him a slap on the back of the head.
Pat on the back.
So since that, it's February, and since I start doing the 16 down, and just I don't sing and I had a new, the Gokul tea. That's what I was drinking, and then Gokul tea ran out, and I said, what am I going to drink now? And I said, okay, well, what can I do? And Bhakti Mala, she bring that one Gokul tea. She said, I bought it from India. You can have it. I said, oh, thank you. So I'm drinking that one now.
Oh, very good.
That was a very, very, means I couldn't, when we go Monday to the farm, I said, hurry up, 3 o'clock, we need to go home, I need a tea. I could not. Sometimes I just said, just drop me off, I'll take a taxi and I go home and I have a tea. So, and that was, I could not believe 50 years one of the habit, and which I'm thinking I'm going to die with it, but it's been 4 months and I don't need it anymore. And I feel like first week was I had a headache. I had a bit of, feel like something is missing. I said, no, it's okay. I'm not going to die. I'm not going to die. And whenever I feel like to, I just grab that chanting bead in a bag. Whenever I feel like it, just grab that. And then slowly after 1 week, I said, fine.
Well done, you. It's really good. Very inspiring.
So practically speaking, if you want to let go of one thing, sacrifice, detach from one thing, what else do you have to do at the same time?
Replace it with something positive.
Yeah, replace it with something positive. Replace it with something ideally better. Ideally, then it's easy. Then it's easier. Like how was it possible for me to give up a lot of my possessions when I met the Hare Krishnas? Is because the Hare Krishnas were offering me something more better, more valuable. When I realized the happiness of what the Hare Krishnas were offering me, then my car, my so-called my car, became insignificant. Insignificant. One advanced devotee of the Lord named Yamunacharya, he's one of the great spiritual teachers in the history of our line of spiritual masters. He said, now that I am tasting the nectar of Krishna consciousness, every time that the thought of sex life comes into my mind, I spit at that thought. He said, I spit at that thought. So it's not that even an advanced devotee, that no thought comes into their mind of sense enjoyment, of sense gratification. But they're enjoying so much the Krishna conscious life that they spit at that thought. There's no attraction or no attachment. It just comes in to the mind and goes out. That's what we want to get to, that point. That all these crazy ideas, as long as we have a material mind, they're probably going to keep coming. These crazy ideas come into our mind, but you don't act on it. You don't react to it.
As long as the glass is full with Krishna consciousness.
And goes, huh?
As long as glass is full with the Krishna consciousness, it's no more room in there. They come and go from the top.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's a very good analogy. When it become a full glass, then like that, if it's full of the water, then the oil can't get in, right? Even if you drop the oil on that cup, it can't get into that cup as long as it's full of water. So you just want to make sure that you're full of Krishna consciousness. So the more that happens, automatically detachment. So that definitely makes it easier to give up your possessions if you are getting some enjoyment on another level. Otherwise, what will happen? You might give away your car and your money and so forth, whatever, to some organization. But if you don't have anything more good in your life, what might happen?
You might get back again that things.
You might buy another car and then go and earn some more money and, just go back into
a little bit of shopping. I might do it. I understand.
So we don't want to do that, go back into that again. So that's what some people do. And I'm not recommending that, especially for someone that's Krishna conscious. There's not any need to give away your possessions. Why not? Why is it not recommended for a Krishna conscious person to give away their possessions?
A car can be quite useful to do service in.
No, because you're using those possessions for the best purpose already. You're using it to serve God. If you gave that away, that's your foolishness. That's foolishness. Unless you gave it away to someone else that's going to use it to serve God, and that's okay. But you're already using it for its best purpose. Every material object is meant for the service of God. Because why? Why should every single thing in this material world be used to serve God?
Because he owns it all.
He owns it all. He created it all. He created it all, therefore he owns it all. Why does he own it all? Because he made it. It belongs to him because he made it. So therefore, because he made it and he owns it, then he should enjoy it. Those things should all be for his enjoyment. If I take something that's meant for his enjoyment and enjoy it myself, then what do I become?
A thief.
A thief. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. We just read that in the last chapter, the 3rd chapter. If you take something of God's creation and you don't sacrifice it, offer it to God, you become a thief. So there's no surprise that in modern day society there's a lot of unhappy people because they're basically thieves. They're taking God's property, they're breaking the laws of nature, and they're paying the price they have to suffer. We can turn that around by giving up this thieving business and just offering whatever we have available to us in the service of God. Now, what do we have available? What possible things are available to us to use in the service of the Lord?
Time.
Intelligence.
Time. Yep. What else, Bob?
Intelligence.
Yeah, you can offer your intelligence. Yep. Narendra, what's something that you have that you can use for God?
I think you can, as you said, that whatever you eat, you offer God first, or whatever you consume or do.
Yes.
It's first offered to the God rather than straight away eating, and so that will basically you'll be closer to basically God. You more.
Yes. Very good.
Time.
Yeah.
Time.
Time. What about your body?
In the body.
Your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your body is his property. It's not your body, it's his body.
Mm.
It belongs to him. Thinking the body, you can use your mind. The mind belongs to him. Krishna says in the 7th chapter, has 8 material energies. Earth, water, fire, air, space, mind, intelligence, and false ego. He says they're my energies. So even your mind, the mind belongs to him. So how do we use the mind for him? You think about Krishna instead of thinking about coronavirus. Think about Krishna. What's the best way to think about Krishna?
Listening to
the easiest way to think, because if you say Hare Krishna, what are you going to be thinking about?
Thinking about Krishna.
Yeah, like if I say Gulshan, 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 what am I going to be thinking about? Sara, 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 what am I going to think about? So naturally, you're going to think about Krishna. And the easiest way to think about Krishna is by chanting Hare Krishna. And also, if you have wealth, you can use your wealth. Like you can purchase a Bhagavad Gita with your wealth. Well, if you don't have wealth, how are you going to get Bhagavad Gita? Not only for yourself, you can get Bhagavad Gita and give it to other people if you have wealth like that. Or you can build a temple. You could even build a temple in your own house, on your own property, like that. Like that, or give it to an already existing temple, like that. So whatever you have. If you have wealth, you can give that. If you don't have wealth, no problem. Krishna says, Patram puspam phalam toyam. You can offer me a fruit, a flower, a water. If you offer it with love, I'll accept it. But even if you don't have money, that's no obstacle. If you have money, a lot of money that you don't need, you should give that. But if you don't have anything, even you're the poorest person on the planet, you can just offer your mind. Remember I told you the story, one devotee, he wanted to cook something for Krishna, but he was so poor, he didn't even have any food. But he cooked a meal in his mind, especially mentally. He cooked sweet rice, kheer, paisam. He cooked sweet rice, cream rice in his mind, and he cooked it in his mind. He offered it in his mind, but when he was going to offer, he just thought, oh, I don't want to offer it if it's too hot, because it'll obviously if it's very hot milk, it'll burn the tongue, and that's not very good service. So in his mind, with his mental finger, he put his finger in it, and in his mind, his finger got burnt, and then he came out of his trance, his meditation. When he came out of his meditation, he looked at his finger.
Burnt.
It was burnt.
And there was no sweet rice.
There was no physical sweet rice. Only in the mind the sweet rice was there. But his physical finger was burnt. And Vaikuntha, in the spiritual world, Lord Narayan, that's a four-armed form of Krishna, was laughing. And his wife Lakshmi said, "What are you laughing about, my dear beloved?" He said, "I just played a joke on my devotee in the material world." And then he called, "Hey Garuda, That's its bird carrier,
Yes.
gigantic eagle. Go to the material world, go and get this devotee and bring him here. He is my dear devotee. You bring him. And he went back to Godhead. Just because of offering something to Krishna in his mind. Something, whatever we have. If you don't have one thing, you offer something else. If you have a good brain, good intelligence, then offer that to Krishna. How do we do that? How do you offer your intelligence to Krishna?
We're studying transcendental knowledge.
Yeah, we're doing it right now. We're offering our intelligence to Krishna right now. We're racking our brains. What is Abhay talking about? Oh, damn, what does he mean? Oh, so you're using your intelligence now. Trying to understand how it works, how to apply it in your life, like that, all kind of things. So that's a bit about possession. So, okay, that's one kind of sacrifice. What's another kind of sacrifice mentioned here? So the sacrifice of possession. What's another one? Yeah, my father-in-law just said performing austerities. So that's called tapa, tapasya. Very important. Very important. Tapasya. What is tapasya? Does anyone know? Everyone should know what tapasya means. What austerities? What is austerity? Prabhupada defines austerity as voluntarily, important word, voluntarily means not forced. It's your choice. You're choosing to do it. Voluntarily doing something that's difficult.
Okay.
Voluntarily, you choose to do something that's difficult. Tapasya means difficult. Not easy, it's difficult. Why would you volunteer to do something? We all want to have a comfortable life, right? But this is voluntarily doing something difficult. Why? For a higher purpose, for the long-term benefit. I want to get eternal life in the spiritual world. That's my goal. But to get there, no more coffee. Bullshit.
Yep.
Oh, no more coffee. Oh,
Tea.
no, it's so difficult.
Yeah, it was difficult, but it's like I said, what's the worst gonna be? Like I've gone through the more difficult thing that cancer in my life. Coffee, tea is nothing.
Yeah.
It's gonna be up and die. It's okay. But the thing is, the most important person suffering in this tapasya is bread, because he enjoyed that cup of tea. Now he's not getting any more.
Sorry. Excuse me.
So we find that to make progress in spiritual life, you have to do tapasya. So what did Swami Prabhupada request all of his disciples to do? No more meat, no more intoxication, no more illicit sex, no more gambling. This is heavy tapasya for someone that's attached to these things. Actually, all these things are rotten things. They're nothing good in those things.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is we're so addicted, attached to these things. So giving them up is difficult.
Yeah.
And we're not accustomed to spending an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours chanting Hare Krishna. We're not accustomed to that. We like to surf the internet and watch TV and sleep and whatever. So we're accustomed to that. So to sacrifice those things and to spend that 2 hours chanting, that's tapasya in the beginning, especially if you don't have taste for chanting. Because in the beginning, when you start chanting, you might not have much taste for it. Now, what? That's a good question to ask. Why? It's said that God's names are identical with God. There's no difference between God and his name. So God is the reservoir of all bliss. So God is the reservoir of all bliss. That means his names, like Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, is also so much bliss in those names. But when we first start chanting, why aren't we tasting that bliss? Why are we bored out of our brains? Or we wish we could do something else, go back to bed?
Because
Initially, when you give something up that you enjoy, then the body and mind goes through some withdrawal process. Still crying out for that activity. We still want that tea. We still want that rest in bed. You're not giving it to us.
You're
There's
going
some
something
withdrawal
against.
process.
Yeah.
You're going against your natural process, and then mind will say, hang on a sec, this nut was supposed to do that. You should be watching the YouTube like funny video clip, and you're chanting. You're going against your mind. And then it'll take, once the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra hitting the eardrum, it takes a little time, and then you will be soon understand that that's the real rather than illusionary YouTube clips.
And I think it's also basically saying that when you do japa, you're training your mind to be, away from senses. Because when you're thinking, when you're doing japa, you're basically concentrating on Krishna or Rama, not concentrating on your senses. You close your eyes, your focus is on one thing. So your mind is not distracted.
Yeah, very
it's
good.
Not going towards, sense.
Yeah, very good, Narendra. Yeah. Like I was saying, like in the yoga system, they're understanding that the soul's attached to sense enjoyment, whereas detached from sense enjoyment. We want to go from attached to detached. But in the beginning, we're all attached. We're so attached to sense enjoyment. Therefore, it's like bitter. To try to please Krishna's senses is like bitter in the beginning. Why? Because we've been so addicted to pleasing our own senses. So we're doing what do you call that? A shift. There's a way you call that. What do you call that? Diametric opposite. Paradigm shift. The paradigm shift, isn't it? I've for this lifetime and many lifetimes, I've been trying to please my own senses. Now I'm going to stop that, tapasya, and try to please Krishna's senses. So the mind freaks out, and the false ego and all these other things that go with it freaks out, and I don't want to chant Hare Krishna and so many things. One verse by Rupa Goswami says that Krishna's holy names and qualities and pastimes are sweet like sugar candy. But for one who is suffering from, my father-in-law just reminded me, suffering from the disease of jaundice, it tastes bitter. But this is the cure. Does anyone know about jaundice?
Yep.
What's the cure for jaundice?
Hepatitis.
It's
The
blue light. It's blue light. Oh my goodness. They put babies under blue light.
What about sugar? That's the traditional way.
Oh,
The traditional cure, that might be the modern cure, but the traditional cure for jaundice is sugar
It's
candy.
green stuff.
Yeah, sugar cane.
Sugar cane. Is it? Okay.
Sugar is the cure for jaundice.
Yes.
But when you have jaundice, how does the sugar taste? Does it taste sweet?
No, it's bitter.
It's bitter as hell. It tastes disgusting.
Yes.
But we all know that sugar, when you're healthy, is nice. But when you're diseased, when you're sick with jaundice, it tastes disgusting. But that disgusting sugar is your cure. Well, at least only cure before you knew about the blue light. But
blue light from Krishna's.
okay, now it's blue light. Okay, but that's the cure. So, but it doesn't taste good. So, what jaundice do we have? Well, I don't have jaundice, but we have another disease which is called avidya. That's ignorance. So that's our disease. It's because of ignorance. Because of deep ignorance of Krishna and of our soul and our relationship with Krishna, we've forgotten that relationship with Krishna. We're in so much ignorance, thinking we're the body, we can enjoy the body. Because of that, we're not tasting the nectar of the consciousness in the very beginning. But you have to persevere, knowing this is the cure for my disease. If you don't chant, even though you might not enjoy it, or read Bhagavad Gita, or take prasadam, or all these kind of processes, you never get out of this disease. This is the cure. So persevere, even in the beginning, even if you're not enjoying it. Don't think there's anything wrong with the process, because we might think that way. That, oh, I was told that Krishna's name is full of nectar. Why it's not full of nectar for me? Maybe this is not true. They've been lying to me. These Hare Krishnas are cheating me. Well, I'm not experiencing the nectar. They're telling me it's all nectar. This love of God is all nectar and happiness, but I'm not experiencing nectar and happiness. I'm suffering. Why is this not working? There's something wrong with the process. No, there's nothing wrong with the process. There's something wrong with me. We all have to understand every soul in this material world has a disease. And the disease is called Maya. We're all under this disease of illusion and ignorance. So to get cured of this ignorance and illusion, this is our saving grace through these processes of sacrifice. It says, happiness in the mode of goodness is poison in the beginning and nectar in the end. Happiness in the mode of ignorance what do I say? Happiness in the mode of ignorance is poison in the beginning and poison in the end. And happiness in the mode of passion is happiness in the beginning and poison in the end.
Nectar in the end.
Nectar in the end. Yeah, nectar. So in the mode of goodness, it's poison in the beginning. What's poison in the beginning? Because we have to give up meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, gambling. We have to focus on pleasing Krishna's senses, not our own senses, like that. But in the end, it's nectar, because you go back home, back to Godhead. You get out of this rotten material world of birth and old age and disease and death. No more coronavirus, no more having to work hard to pay the bills. You can play with Krishna forever in the spiritual world. It's nectar in the end. But in the mode of passion, it said it's nectar in the beginning. You can drink as much as you want. You can eat whatever you want, whenever you want. You can have sex as much as you want. You can gamble whatever you want. But in the end, you take birth as an animal in your next life, you get slaughtered in the slaughterhouse. You know, you in the gutter somewhere, peeing your pants, you know, drunk. You're, you know, put through the ringer of material energy. So many things is poison in the end. And in the mode of ignorance, it's said it's poison in the beginning and the end. You know, happiness in the mode of ignorance. We see that.
Very good.
That like the drunkard and so forth, their life's miserable now, and it's going to be more miserable in the future. Just misery all the way along. So it's better to choose that mode of goodness path, except that, okay, temporarily I might have to undergo some tapasya, some things that are difficult, but I know that this is not going to last forever. It's just temporary. Eventually I'm going to get purified, and then I'll enter into my natural blissful state of life, of love of God, love of Krishna. So we can tolerate these difficulties because we know they're temporary. Very important to understand. These difficulties are temporary. They're not going to last forever. Just like coronavirus, right? Now there might be some miseries, but it's not going to last forever. So you be patient. You continue with your devotional service. Tolerate these difficulties, and you'll pass through them. Keep your consciousness focused on Krishna, and you'll get through. And eventually, when you become purified, you'll be happy in any condition of life. One time, a reporter asked Prabhupada when he was traveling around, "Are you happy to be here in Boston, in America?" Prabhupada said, "I'm happy everywhere. I'm happy everywhere." If he goes to Africa, he's happy. If he goes to Russia, he's happy. If he goes to some horrible place, he's happy. If he goes to some heavenly place, he's happy. It's not up and down, up and down. He's always feeling happy, bliss. So we can all come to that point. My father-in-law is asking why so? Yeah. Why is he happy?
The time of Krishna.
Yeah, so he's happy everywhere because all the time he's thinking of Lord Shri Krishna. He's always absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But it takes time to get to that point. It takes time. Now we're absorbed, or previously at least always absorbed in our own consciousness of our body and so forth. So we want to transfer that to always being absorbed in thinking about Krishna. So during that transition process, we have to voluntarily accept there will be some difficulties. Anyone that says spiritual life is easy is either consciously cheating or lying, or they're just a bit ignorant. It's not easy. One time Prabhupada said, spiritual life is difficult. I really like this saying. Spiritual life is difficult, but material life is impossible. Think about that. Spiritual life is difficult. That's just being honest. The material world, practicing spiritual life, is, like Prabhupada said, we are declaring war against Maya. He said this Krishna conscious movement is like declaring war against Maya. It's a battle, isn't it? To control your senses, it's a battle. Dealing with materialistic people is a battle. Dealing with the bodily aches and pains and the mental problems, physical problems, social problems, and natural disasters. You know, there's so many difficulties there. So it's hard to practice spiritual life. But material life is impossible. Why impossible?
Because it's never end. You keep expecting more and more.
Well, that's right. You're never satisfied.
Never satisfied.
But on the other side too, that whatever achievements you make, like what they say, material advancement, right? You've all heard that saying, material advancement. But the Prabhupada said there's no material advancement. How can he say that? There is no such thing as material advancement.
Because no matter what, the material body is going to be finished. No advancement in that life is going to be carried over to the next life with you, and then you have to start again.
Yeah, we're stripped down to zero again. Even you become Bill Gates and billionaire and whatever else, and you have fantastic palace and a fantastic kids and wife and everything. But ultimately, at the time of death, if not before that, it's all taken away from you. Every single thing. You can't take anything with you in your next life, except for all your bad karma. You know, so yeah, there's no such thing as material advancement. That's why I said material life's impossible. You can't get anywhere materially. It's impossible. But spiritual life's difficult, but it's not impossible. You have to go through some tapasya, some voluntary austerities. But ultimately, you're going to hit jackpot. You're going to hit the mega lotto jackpot. You're going to get eternal blissful life, full of knowledge, full of bliss, forever. Eternal blissful life at the end of it. Just for a short life. Just whatever's left. Give these last 20 years, 40 years, 50 years to Krishna. Mate, you hit the jackpot. You're out of here. You're not coming back. You chant till this body drops down dead. Read Bhagavad Gita till the body drops down dead. Fill your face with prasadam till the body drops down dead. You're not coming back. You're out of here. You hit the jackpot. So for whatever's left over remaining time in the body, it's going to be difficult. Just, you know, we're not going to cheat you and say it's easy. It's difficult.
There's one nice saying. I've heard about material life. That when you're young, you have time and health, but you have no finances to really enjoy that time or health. You don't have the money. And then when you're a bit older, you do have the money, and you do still have your health, but you have no time to enjoy it because you're working, raising a family. And then when you're older, you have the finances and the time because you're retired, but you don't have your health anymore. So you're never in a stage of full enjoyment at any stage. You're always short somewhere in material life from full enjoyment.
Sorry.
I think, the thing is that we always look for something new. We don't basically look what we already have. We are never satisfied, right? This is because of the senses.
Yeah.
So,
But see, you can get that inner satisfaction from your relationship with Krishna, because there's an ocean of love. Once you connect with him, that connection with Krishna satisfies the heart, satisfies the soul. Because Krishna is a reservoir of bliss. If you connect with that, imagine it's like, say you have your phone, right? And as soon as you plug the phone into the socket in the wall, what happens? What is that phone connected to?
Charging.
to energy, basically energy, yeah.
How much energy?
Enough to
Depends
charge
on
to 100%.
connection.
Are you ever going to plug it in and it doesn't get a charge?
Or if you don't pay the electricity bill.
But I mean, when you plug it in, as long as you pay your bill, you're connected with a powerhouse, right? That's a lot of energy. It's like when you connect with Krishna, you're connecting with the unlimited powerhouse of bliss. And you just get saturated with happiness. Like I've said so many times, when Prabhupada sometimes couldn't hold it back, the feelings he was experiencing in his heart, the tears would shoot out of his eyes sideways, would fire like a water pistol. The devotees around him would get saturated with the water from his eyes because he's plugged into the powerhouse of divine love, divine bliss. And that's what the soul's hankering for. We're looking for that in the material world, and you get disappointed. You think that connecting up with this opposite sex is going to give me that bliss, or making this money, getting this position, this power, this opulence, whatever, but it doesn't do it. This is significant material things. So when we connect with Krishna, that powerhouse of bliss, then you become satisfied. Then you're satisfied with, okay, today all I got was some rice and dal. You're satisfied. Now you can be satisfied just with that rice and dal.
Narendra, there are kids there at the back.
Sorry. Somebody's crying at the back.
That's all right.
I'll just mute it.
Okay.
That's all right.
How is it possible that that guy can be satisfied with just rice and dal? Externally means he's not getting very much, but he's satisfied. Why? Because internally he's satisfied. So if internally you're satisfied, then externally whatever's coming to you, you're happy with that. That's why you find, like you read, like the persons that compose these books, you often find, where did they write the book? From under a tree. That's all they had. They didn't even have a house. They wrote these books, like this book. Good example, because we're talking about nectar. I don't know if you can see that. That's called the Nectar of Devotion. Nectar. So this book was written by Rupa Goswami under a tree. He was so blissed out with love for Krishna, he didn't care that he was just under a tree and he didn't have a house. So automatically, if you're spiritually connected, automatically you become satisfied. But if you don't have that spiritual connection, no matter what you have, you're never satisfied. Isn't it? So that's the secret to satisfaction. Got to have that spiritual connection. You've got to be spiritually full. That glass is full. And then whatever else comes or doesn't come, you're not worried about it. You accept anything. If you give the spiritually connected person a palace, he's happy. And if you give him a tree, he's happy. If you give him a 10-course meal, he's happy. If you give him just rice with a little bit of pickle, achar, and a poppadom, he's happy. You know, any condition of life, he's happy. Wouldn't that be a good platform to come to? So yeah, let's work towards that. Okay, so what other sacrifice mentioned here? We've got another 10 minutes. What other sacrifices mentioned here?
Studying the Vedas.
Yeah.
YouTube clips.
Studying the Vedas. So like I said, this is with you mainly using your intelligence. So that's a sacrifice, using your intelligence. Obviously, if you're doing that, studying the Vedas means you're not studying the stock exchange or the newspaper or some mundane novel or whatever like that. So you're giving up something else, you know. So, and Krishna's going to be pleased. Well, you're reading about my directions and my instructions instead of some other, you know, Maya literature. You'll be very happy. You'll be very happy. And then within our heart, he's going to start giving us intelligence in our heart, how to progress in Krishna consciousness. This Bhagavad Gita and another book, the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is like the foundation or the groundwork for our spiritual progress. These are words of God. This Vedas is the words of God. So our progress in life spiritually, this is the foundation, is these words of God. This is what makes the Hare Krishna movement authorized. Because the Hare Krishna movement is based on the words of God. It's based on the scripture. It means God's words. It's said that the Vedas is Veda, Narayana, Shakshat. Means the Vedas is directly the breathing of Narayana. Veda, Narayana, Shakshat. The Vedas is the breathing of Narayana. Swayambhur Itishushuma. It's the breathing of Narayana. It's the words, isn't it? Our words are our breath. When we're breathing out, it's the words are coming. So this is the breath of the Lord. It's the Vedas. It's said that the Vedas also comes from the flute of Krishna. Krishna plays his flute. The Vedic hymns come out of his flute. It's said when Krishna is playing his flute, Om, Om, the 3 syllables, Om. This is a vibration coming from God. It's non-different from God. So you're associating with God. That's another thing. When you study the Vedas, when you hear from the Vedas, you're actually associating with God in sound vibration. This is the recorded sound vibration of God. Just like when you chant Hare Krishna, you're associating with God in sound. Also, this Vedas is a recording of God's words. So it's non-different from God. You're actually associating with God. See, many Hindus, they have the tradition of putting the scriptures on their altar, and they worship them as like a deity or a murti. And that's a very good custom, because these are actually they're actually non-different from God, just like the murti or the deity of Radha Krishna or Gauranitai or whatever, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, Lakshmi, Narayan is God. So also the book is also. So these books are worshipable, and we should understand that these are God's words. They're so sacred. Like in the Sikh tradition, they have the Guru Granth, the words of their Guru, the Guru Granth. Granth means book, the book of the Guru's words. And they put it on their altar, and they worship it, and they read those words, and they meditate on them. And so, okay, we read the scriptures, and then what? You read the scriptures, and then what should you do with what you read?
Put it into daily practice.
Yeah, that's the main thing. If you're reading it, that's the gyan. Gyan means knowledge. But then is that what your life's meant for? Just knowing a lot of stuff? I know the Bhagavad Gita, I know about the Himalayas, I know about the Ganges, I know about Japa. I don't do anything, but I know it all. You know, but then the next step is Vijnana. Vijnana means application of the knowledge, the practice of the knowledge. That's when you really gain benefit. I mean, it's good just getting the knowledge because you are associated with God, even if you're not very conscious, you're associated with God. Prabhupada said, if someone gets a Bhagavad Gita and they read one verse, they benefit. Unlimited benefit. If they read half a verse, so much benefit. Even if they read one line, he said, even if they read one word of Bhagavad Gita, but because you're associated with God, even one word. If you open the book and read one word and that's all you did in that life, you got so much benefit because for that moment you're associated with God. But even more benefit you get if you use your intelligence and try to understand it. And how can I apply these words in my life? How can I apply these words in my daily life to purify my life?
Practice.
You have to practice. Like, I'll give you examples, some words from it comes in two places in the Bhagavad Gita. It means it's very important. The end of the 9th chapter, so that's 9th chapter, text 34. You can check it out later if you want. And 18th chapter, text 65. The first two lines are exactly the same. This is explained as like the essence of the Bhagavad Gita. Man mana bhava madbhakto mam yaji mam naraskaru. So that's 4 things Krishna's telling us. He's saying, think of me. Number 2, become my devotee. Number 3, worship me. Number 4, offer your obeisances or respect to me. So that's knowledge. You know that now. There's 4 things that Krishna's asking us to do. So that's knowledge. But when it becomes Vijnana, is when you applied knowledge, is when you actually do those things. Okay, Krishna said, think of me, so from today I'm going to chant Hare Krishna on Japa beads, or we'll meet up with the devotees and chant loudly, Kirtan, Sankirtan. And Krishna's saying, become my devotee. So now I'm going to direct as much love as I can to Krishna. Before I was only directing my love to my cats and my dogs and my family members and developing my business and so forth. But now I'm going to invest some of my devotion and love to Krishna. And Krishna's saying worship him. So now instead of worshipping my business idols or music idols or political idols or whatever, I'm going to worship Krishna. I'm going to do artis at home, to pictures of Krishna or deities of Krishna. I'm going to worship them with incense and flowers and lamp and so forth. And instead of just bowing down to every whim of my senses, isn't it? We're become an obedient slave, bowing down to our tongue, our belly, our genitals, a slave of our bowing down to our boss at work, bowing down to our partners or whatever like that, being obedient servant of them. I'm going to bow down to Krishna. When I go to the temple in my house or in the temple outside, I'm going to bow down. I'm going to lie my body down on the ground. I'm going to put my head on the ground and offer my respect to Krishna. So like that, you actually do those things. Okay, I know I should bow down. That's one thing. But actually, physically, then you put it into practice. You make that part of your daily sadhana or spiritual practice to bow your head down before God. Does that make sense? Anyone like that? Anything to that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, studying the Vedas is very good. That's the kind of sacrifice. You could be doing something else, but you're doing that, you're associating with God, and hopefully the person make progress and become more detached. Because what is God's words helping us to do? Helping us become detached from illusion, become detached from light, and become attached to Him. So keep relating it back to that, right? We're starting out as a soul attached to sense enjoyment, means to the body. Now, where do we want to get to? As a soul that's detached from the body, attached from sense enjoyment. So all these processes of sacrifice, whichever one it is going to help us to do that. Hopefully, if you follow the process, it's going to help us go from being materially attached to materially detached. So also, if you study the Vedas, you should have that objective. If you don't have that objective of being detached from sense enjoyment, you're probably not going to achieve that result. There's another story in Krishna book where some brahmanas, they're like intellectuals, they were studying the Vedas. But when Krishna and Balaram sent their cowherd friends to beg some food that had been offered in sacrifice from them, they just were performing a sacrifice and they'd offered food there, so it was nice prasadam. But when Krishna's friends went there, they refused. They refused. So they studied the Vedas, but they couldn't realize that the person that wrote the Vedas and the purpose of the Vedas had personally come through his friends to ask them, can you please give us some food? And they said no. So what does that tell you? They have lost the plot. They've lost the plot.
They learn nothing.
Their studying the Vedas is useless. Their study of the Vedas is useless. They probably knew every verse by heart. But what's the point? See? Whereas, so they went back disappointed, told them what happened. Krishna Balaram said, no worries, go back again, but this time, go to the wives of the Brahmanas. They are my devotees. Go to the wives. So they went back to the wives, and they said, Krishna and Balaram's nearby, and they want some food from you. They said, what? Krishna and Balaram? They're here. How much food do you want? I'll take it myself. They even wouldn't give it to the cowherd boys. I will personally give the food to Krishna and Balaram. They just ran. Oh, ecstasy. Krishna and Balaram, I could see. Krishna and Balaram. This is perfection. They were so happy. They didn't even care that my husband would be angry with me. You know, they took as much as food as they could carry. Like, they had more realization. They had more Vijnana. Even though they were simple women, they weren't intellectuals. They were simple village women. But they're actually most intelligent because they had realized them. It's not just the mechanical process. It's got to reach your heart. You might have a good brain and everything like that, but it's got to reach the heart. That's the main thing. Bhakti means this is about love. I think I heard a dong, so we're probably running out of time. And then it mentions again the yoga of the eightfold mysticism. So that was what was talked about in the last verse. And mainly it was talking about pranayama in the last verse, but this one's in the eightfold. So pranayama's part of the eightfold. Eightfold, remember, is the Ashtanga yoga. Ashtanga yoga is the eightfold system. The last verse talked about specifically about the pranayama, the air, and it's just mentioning the Ashtanga yoga system. So you can see there's many different sacrifices. You can read in your own time. You can read about the purport. We didn't get into that. We'll get into that next time. So when we start next time, we'll start with the purport, and Prabhupada will go through some more details, things that we didn't talk about. So would anyone like to say anything? Anyone has any realizations from what knowledge they've got tonight? Or any questions?
All I realize that all I need that prema.
Yeah, we should realize that's what we really need is love. Love for Krishna.
Prema.
That's our goal. We're not there yet, but that's our goal. If you know where your goal is, that's a big advantage. Why is that a big advantage to have a goal?
You know where you're going.
Yeah, it helps to know where you're going, right? Otherwise, what will happen to you if you do all your activities without a goal?
Yeah. And
You'll get distracted.
It would solve confusion.
It's called round and round in circles,
Yes.
isn't it?
that's right.
It's
Even
like,
if you
it's
know,
like a mouse in that little Ferris wheel thing. Just going round and round and round and round, running. You're running very fast, but where are you running? You don't know where you're running. You're just going round and round and round and round.
like gopis, they didn't do 16 rounds, but they are prema with the Krishna.
No, they didn't do 16 rounds. They
but they are
chanted 24
praying.
hours.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's not that they didn't chant, but they were chanting 24 hours.
It was like a 24/7.
And it's not because someone told them to chant. They just spontaneously were chanting. Do you know, while they were cooking, they were chanting. While they were getting dressed, they were chanting. While they were looking after their kids, they were chanting. It's not just Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. But they were singing songs. Yasomati Nandana Brajobaro Nagara Gokula Ranjana Kana. Like they were singing beautiful bhajans, all related to Krishna.
That's it.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinath Madan Mohan. But they were singing beautiful bhajans all day long, all night long. Even they're dreaming about Krishna while they're in the daytime, they were glorifying Krishna. In the nighttime, dreaming about Krishna. You know, when the battle was going on, Battle of Kurukshetra, this went for after this conversation. There was 18-day war, the Battle of Kurukshetra, and in the nighttime, Arjuna would sleep very peacefully, even though he could die anytime, but he wasn't worried at all, being full confidence that Krishna will protect him. And when he was sleeping, do you know what was emanating from his body?
No.
Krishna's names.
Already.
Krishna's names was coming out of his body, not just his mouth. His whole body was so spiritualized. God's names was coming out of his whole body. We can't imagine that, can we? Normally only names come out of your mouth. But he was so absorbed in Krishna, even his body was completely spiritualized. Of course, we can't imitate that or whatever. We're not on that level. But that's the point it can come to. You mentioned the gopis. They're not chanting 16 rounds. They're chanting all the time. Day and night, the holy name is coming out of them. Now, we're chanting because we've been told to by our guru. You have to chant at least 16 rounds. So we're doing
16
it.
is the minimum.
As a minimum, yeah. That's not a maximum. That's the minimum. Once you make the vow, of course. I mean, of course, if you chant 1 round a day, that's still good. If you chant 2 rounds a day, that's still good. So any amount of chanting is good. Like Prabhupada said, even 1 word, even if you say Krishna once, even if the person in their life says the name Krishna once, at least they're going to get a human birth in the next life. Just from chanting Krishna's name once. I said, if someone takes prasadam, food offered to Krishna once, it guarantees they're going to get another chance in their next life to take more prasadam. Probably at least in a human body. You can easily go down from human life. You can easily go down from human into dog, fish, bird, whatever. But if you chant God's name, touch the Bhagavad Gita, take prasadam, you're going to only be able to go up. No more down, only up. That's how Krishna loves his devotees so much and protects the devotees from that most fearful situation of going down into more horrible births and complete ignorance, because going down from human life means complete ignorance. No Krishna consciousness if you go down. No Krishna consciousness. Just eating and sleeping and sex and fighting, defending yourself. No thoughts about higher things. No spirituality. No chance for spirituality. No Krishna consciousness. But a little bit of Krishna consciousness now protects you from going down, sliding back down to ignorance. And you'll get another chance in your next life to continue on where you left off. I'll just finish off one little story. One man went to a temple, and in a forest area there was a small temple, and he took prasadam. He ate prasadam. He was walking home, and he got eaten by a tiger. He got eaten by a tiger. The man that ate prasadam, he got eaten by a tiger. Right? I won't tell you what happened to him. You're going to figure it out as soon as I tell you the next thing, what happened to him. Then that tiger got killed by a hunter. That hunter killed the tiger. You know what happened to that tiger?
Came back as a human?
No, he got liberated. He got
the prasadam.
he ate someone that ate prasadam.
Man with the prasadam.
He ate someone that ate prasadam. He didn't eat prasadam, but he ate someone that ate prasadam, and he went back to Godhead. So you can figure out what happened to the person that ate the prasadam.
Oh, he's already liberated.
He ate someone that ate prasadam, and he went back to Godhead. What about the person that ate the prasadam?
Liberated long
That's
time.
the power of prasadam. But of course, prasadam means it has to be offered with love. That is prasadam. You can't just throw something neglectfully in front of the Lord and say, eat it, mate. No, you have to offer it with humility and devotion. Love. And once he accepts it, it's prasadam, that food is very powerful. One time, one great acharya named Ramanujacharya, he took some prasadam and put it in his mouth, and then he had some remnants, some leftover, he threw in the water. And in the water, some fish ate that prasadam. The fish, immediately, their body changed from fish into four arms, spiritual form. They're called Vaikuntha form. They immediately got four-arm form and lifted up into the spiritual world. Immediately liberated. They're very powerful. And then his disciples, they were with him, his disciples, they said, Guru Maharaj, I'm eating prasadam every day. Why isn't that happening to me? Why isn't that happening to me? Good question. You know what the answer was? The fish got prasadam, liberated immediately, taking prasadam. And the humans, they taken prasadam many times, didn't get liberated. Why? You know what the Guru said? Because you are making offences.
Because what, sorry?
You are making offences. Offences. You are committing offences. That's the only thing that's stopping us from hitting the jackpot straight away. Why don't we get the complete benefit straight away when we chant, straight away we take prasadam? Because of offences. So part of the process is finding out what are the offences, means what things Krishna doesn't like you to do. Finding out what the offences are, and then avoiding them, avoiding those offences. You're still going to get benefit even if you do those things with offences, but it's slowing down your benefit because of the offences. So we haven't gone into that yet, but we will look at that. Even if we, like I said, you know, doing things with offence, we're still making benefit. But we want to find out what they are and then clear them out. Like, for example, there's 10 offences and chanting Hare Krishna. There's 10 offences. If you make 1 or 2 or 10 of those offences, it's slowing down the benefits. If you chant Hare Krishna even once without any offences, you'll be like Prabhupada with tears coming out of your eyes sideways, guaranteed. If you chant and there's tears not coming out like that, then you're definitely making some offences. So those ones we want to work on that. So that's part of the process. That's part of the process, is to clear out offences. So it's a wonderful process. At whatever stage we're at, the very beginning stage when we're attached to sense enjoyment, or you're in the middle or in the end, it's wonderful to be on the process. We know now what the goal is. We want to love God. And we're only going to get forwards. From here on in, it's all up. Enthusiasm and determination. It's only onwards and upwards.
And the right practice.
Yeah, we've got to have the right practice. So you need to hear from the Vedas and have a spiritual master, and you'll
attend the class every Thursday.
And you'll have the right guidance.
Will we see you next Thursday?
Well, I'm very happy to see you all next Thursday. I'm at this point anyway.
Great.
I would love to continue doing this next Thursday and onwards.
Great.
So if anything changes, we'll let you know. And whoever's available, please keep joining in.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How was that, Narendra? Did you get some benefit from that? Did you find something?
I'm just starting to read Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's just giving me more perspective, you know, in terms of what's in there. And I was thinking it's sort of it's as you said, it was written by it's the God's word. It's basically how for us humans to basically what's the ideal way of behaving. That's what I think. I mean, the way we live our life. That's basically
how to live the life. Yeah.
Yeah, correctly.
Yes.
In an ideal
Yes,
way.
correctly. Yes, how to live the life correctly. Yes.
Yeah, so what he has made us for and how we should live our life. So that's what I think, but still I'm trying to get into it.
Yes.
Yeah, so this helps actually quite a lot. Yeah, enjoyed it.
Awesome.
And looking forward to the next. High five.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So you'll have a lovely week. All the
You
best.
too.
All
Yeah,
well.
good luck, everyone. Stay safe.
See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.